الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. نكمل إن شاء الله تعالى from باب التيمم, from the chapter of التيمم, and we stopped at, as you see in page 163, where it says in the Zad ويجب التيمم, ويجب التيمم, and he says بتراب طهور. So we continue from there inshallah. So ويجب التيمم, that means the tayammum is wajib, wajib, it's mandatory, it's an obligatory with a turab. So now he's going to start explaining the content or what is makes the tayammum valid with what type of sa'id, or what is a sa'id as mentioned in the verse in the Quran, which is from the earth. So he says biturab. Turab, he says in the sharh, turab is the dust or the earth or the dirt. فلا يجوز التيمم فلا يجوز التيمم برمل وجص ونحت الحجارة ونحوها, which means therefore that it is not permissible. لا يجوز التيمم برمل. الرمل is the sand, والجص is what they built things with, like the mud, the clay, the thing that is they use for building. So that also comes under this category, the cement and the like of this. But the jis is where they use that it's from mud, and they use it to put the bricks together, or without bricks. ونحت الحجارة, and what comes or falls from the stones if you would scratch it or trying to get things from it. So this is first of all from the what is mashhur, what is well known in the madhab, that the only material that is valid to make tayammum with is at-turab. This is what is supposed to be the sa'id as mentioned in the ayah, and some of the narrations, some of the hadith mention specifically the turab, biturabin tahur, with a pure turab. So this is basically what the main thing, or what's the madhab is upon. There is another riwayah that anything that is from a sa'id, so it includes also the sand and the like of this. But we're taking here this first. So in practicality, if a person is making tayammum, anything that comes from the earth, they can do that. But we're taking in this mas'ala, a person can search it in more details with looking into the two types of evidences that both opinions they took and they discussed, which is a very interesting thing. But here, for the time being, we're just taking what is well established in the madhab, and then inshallah ta'ala also we can discuss it with matters of evidences and dalil later, inshallah. But the ayah is very clear in this. As I said, just some brief to understand that it's some of them, because of some of the narrations that mention specifically turab. بتراب طهور, بتراب طهور. As you see, so a turab is the dust. Is when we say the dirt is not mud. So in the madhab, it's not permissible to make tayammum with mud. It only the dust that is basically comes from the earth. So therefore, and the dust that allows to grow plants, right? So the what's on the earth where plants comes out from it. So therefore, sand is not permissible, just as we said, which is the material that they use for building. What comes out from scratching the stones, all of that is not considered to be turab. And then tahur, that means it's pure, right? But if you remember the word tahur in the beginning of Kitab al-Tuhur, it's very specific, right? So there's difference between tahur and tahir. So that's why he says in the sharh, فَلَا يَجُوزُ بِتُرَابٍ تُيُمِّمَ بِهِ. So it is not permissible to use turab, that is tuyummam. That means this is in the passive tense, as you see, bihi, that people used for tayammum. So that's why this is, you have now turab that is tahur and turab that is tahir, according to this statement, according to this mas'ala. So a turab al-tahir is the turab that has been used before for tayammum. If someone, of course, knows if people are doing it together, as it's going to be mentioned afterwards. And there's another riwayah that this is still valid to use for tayammum, because this is the opinion that is used based on qiyas or analogy with water. But whether this is a valid qiyas or not, this is an issue. So فلا يجوز بتراب تيمم به لزوال طهوريته باستعماله. He says لزوال طهوريته, because its طهورية is removed as a result of it being used. لزوال طهوريته باستعماله. So this is what's wajib, and as we said again, I'm repeating so that when someone asks, can we make tayammum with anything that comes from the earth? The answer is yes, as with the other conditions that are mentioned. So, but here at-turab is what's the opinion of the madhab specifically. Then he mentioned the next مسألة here, وإن تيمم جماعة في موضع واحد جاز. وإن تيمم, if جماعة make tayammum, a group of people they made tayammum. وإن تيمم جماعة في من موضع واحد, from the same spot, from the same area that they're making tayammum together from. He says جاز, it's permissible. كما لو توضأوا من حوض يغترفون منه, exactly as the same مسألة, similar to if they made wudu from a حوض, from a container that has water, from basin, from a tub. يغترفون منه, they are taken from it with their hands, or with whatever means they take from it. They put their hands in it and they take the water out and they use it for wudu. That's al-ightiraf. Al-ightiraf is when someone uses their hands as a big spoon or something to get the water in the hands and take it out. So they all would dip their hands in the container, in this tub, and they would use it to make wudu. While making wudu, it's permissible, even though there's some water would drip back into it. So, and it's still permissible. It doesn't take the tahuriyya of the ma'. So he mentioned this mas'ala here because of the previous statement, where if the turab has been used for tayammum, then tahuriyya is removed and it becomes tahir. That means it's not permissible to be used again. But if they're doing that collectively at the same time, from the same spot, then it's okay. All of their tayammum is jaiz, is permissible. He says ويعتبر أيضا, and also to be considered, أن يكون مباحا. So the same rulings that applied for water is repeated here again for التراب, that أن يكون مباحا, that means it's permissible, not haram. So as an example, فلا يصح بتراب مغصوب. It is not valid, the tayammum is not valid if it's used with turab مغصوب, that has been stolen, taken without the right to do so. And there is even some of the things where the ulama mentioned, for example, the turab of the masjid. This is waqf for the masjid, is not permissible to be used for tayammum, for example. So it has to be, again, turab that is not stolen. A land that is stolen, for example, then it's not permissible to use its turab, its dust or dirt for tayammum. Also another ruling, وأن يكون غير محترق, that the turab is not muhtariq, and muhtariq burned. Why would someone burn the dirt or the dust? This is referring to what they use for some types of manufacturing. So that's why he says فلا يصح بما دق من خزف ونحوه. So it's not permissible from what is being made or manufactured, or like a sculpture from khazaf. Al-khazaf is the porcelain, the things that where they use the sand. So they're preparing the sand, for example, to be used for porcelain, for any manufacturing of something that comes from the sand. If that preparation of the sand is burned, then it's not permissible to use this. I'm sorry, I use the word sand, but it refers to the turab. And also the outcome product, it is not permissible to be used. So the khazaf, something that is from porcelain, even though it originally comes from the earth, as a result of that is not permissible because it's not turab. It's not sa'id, that means it's not turab, dirt. Then he says, وَأَنْ يَكُونَ لَهُ غُبَارٌ. Also, that it has to have له غبار. So له غبار, this is from the Zad, له غبار. That this turab that is tahur, it has to have غبار on it. And al-ghubar is basically the what stays in one's hand. So this is what al-ghubar. And what stays in one's hand from the dirt. So if something that doesn't get into the hand, that means it's not turab. It's not dirt, because the dirt, when you hit it with your hand, you feel something in your hand. This is the ghubar. What's in the hand as a result of hitting the ground, it's called ghubar. It's a word used for when they say dust and things like this. لقوله تعالى فامسحوا بوجوهكم وأيديكم منه, because he said subhanahu wa ta'ala, wipe your faces and your hands from it. He says فلو تيمم على لبد أو ثوب أو بساط أو حصير أو حائط أو صخرة أو حيوان أو برذعته أو شجر أو خشب أو عدل شعير ونحوه مما عليه غبار صح. So all of these things that has أو, these are all materials that is not from the earth, that is not from the Sa'id, and he's just mentioning it as an example. This is not exclusive, this is not everything, but just basically anything that is not from the earth but has ghubar. So the last part of that statement says mimma alayhi ghubar, where it has ghubar or dust on it, and this is basically anything. So libdin, whether it's the wool of an animal, garment, bisat is a carpet or something you put on the floor, like a carpet or so, أو حصير, straw mat, أو حائط or a wall, أو صخرة or rock, أو حيوان or an animal, أو برذعته, or the saddle or what they put on the animal for a person to sit on, أو شجر or tree, أو خشب or wood, or عدل شعير ونحوه مما عليه غبار. And something where they put the sha'ir in, or the barley, where it has ghubar on it. All of these things, if it has ghubar, if it has dust that stays in your hand when you hit it, then sahha, that means the tayammum is valid. Right? So if you link what has been mentioned before, according to the what's mashhur, what's well known in the madhab, so if it's only turab that can be used for tayammum, but anything else, where we said the other opinion is anything from originally from the earth. So if it has ghubar on it, if it has dust on it, then it's permissible to be used. So for example, if there's sand and the sand has on it a level of ghubar that stays in the hand, so that means according to this, it's permissible to be used for tayammum. The wall is not made from dust. It's made from jis, or as we said, or cement or anything like this, and ghubar or dust comes on it. So when you hit it with your hands, there's dust in the hand. You feel the dust in your hand. So that means it's permissible to be used for tayammum, or even man-made things. So whether it's a piece of cloth or wood or anything like this. So this is basically what brings it with the third case here, that makes the first one clearer when it comes to the issue of a turab. So this is what he mentioned here with this, and he says, وإن اختلط التراب بذي غبار بذي غبار غيره. So what is this here before we continue? If the turab, if the dirt, if the dust is mixed, اختلط بذي غبار غيره, with other than it but has ghubar. So it's mixture, something that is mixture, turab and wood, turab and sand. For example, things like this. So what's the ruling here? He says afterwards, as an example, كالنورة فكماء خالطه فكماء خالطه طاهر. Nora is the This imad where they put on the ground for helping to cultivate the land, fertilizers, for example, right? So something like this. So something that is other than the dirt, and the nawara is like the a type of fertilizer. So if that happen, whether it's nawara or something else, a sibach is where they put on the ground as long as it's pure, right? So if this is mixed with a turab, so as we said before, that the tayammum is only valid with a turab. But anything that is having ghubar on it, you can use it also for tayammum. And if the turab is mixed with something that has or that can have ghubar on it, then it's the same ruling as kama'in, as water, khalatahu tahir. The water, when tahir mixed with it, if you have water and something that is pure but is not water mixed with it, then it takes the rulings of what's is more. That means it becomes, whether the water, when you put lemon juice in it, whether it stays as water or whether it changed to lemon juice, right? So if it's a small amount, then it still continued to be called water. If it changes to something else, then it's that something else. So here, if you have some turab, some dirt, some dust, and it's mixed with something else, right, and it becomes something else, then it's not permissible to be used for tayammum. But that something else that is not permissible to be used for tayammum, if it has ghubar on it, you can still use it for tayammum because you're making the tayammum with al-ghubar, not with that material that we have, right? So and I hope this is clear and it's not confusing. So it has to be from turab. And any other material other than turab, according to what's known in the madhab, is not permissible to be used for tayammum. But this other material, if it has ghubar on it, and the ghubar, you would feel it if you hit it with your hands, then the tayammum is valid because the ghubar is turab. This ghubar is turab. So hopefully this is clear, inshallah ta'ala. So this is how the tayammum yajib, or it's obligation with these matters, that it means it's tahur, it's turab, and it has ghubar on it. He says then وفروضه. Now the furud. So we talked about the material that is used for tayammum, and now the furud, or the obligations. وفروضه مسح وجهه. فروضه أي فروض التيمم. The furud of a tayammum, the pillars of a tayammum, which is an obligation. مسح وجهه. مسح وجهه. So the first thing is to wipe his face. Wiping his face. He says سوى, in the sharh, سوى ما تحت شعر ولو خفيفا. سوى, except ما تحت شعر, what's under hair, ولو خفيفا, even if it's light, unlike the wudu. If you remember, the wudu is washing. When you face the face, you wash the face. So if for the beard, then the wudu is to wash the upper part of the beard, what's shown. But does you have to wash the face, the bashara, the skin? No. And you do the takhlil, you put your hand inside of the beard. This is as a recommended thing. But for the tayammum, there's no washing, so it's wiping. So wiping مسح وجهه, except what's under the hair, ولو سوى ما تحت شعر. So what's under hair, even if it's light, you don't have to wipe over this. وداخل فم وأنف ويكره. وداخل فم وأنف. That means an inside mouth, inside the mouth, inside the nose. Of course, this is not part of the tayammum because now the fem, the mouth and the nose, even though in wudu we use it, we wash the mouth and the nose and it's part of the face, but the tayammum is different here. So you don't wipe with the tayammum what's inside of the mouth. You don't make madmada basically with the tayammum, and you don't put anything in your nose with the dust. He says ويكره, and it is disliked for someone to do such a thing. So it's something to be avoided. Clear? So وفروضه مسح وجهه, wiping over the face and not the what's in the bashara or on the skin. If a person has a beard, for example, just the outside, there's no takhlil. You don't make takhlil of the face where you put your hands inside of the beard to make sure that the dust touches the skin if a person has a beard, for example. Just مسح الوجه. He says then afterwards ومسح يديه إلى كوعيه. And the other fard is to wipe يديه, his hands, إلى كوعيه, to his two كوع. And the كوع here is basically where till the wrist. And this is what the wrist is. So the wrist of the person, which is basically, he's talking about the palms. The palm, this is what is permissible. And this is basically the fard and nothing else. So it's not the hands all the way to the elbows, it's just the palm. It's only the palm. So let me now. So here ويديه إلى كوعيه. And again, because the ayah says it's referring to the hand or the palm, and this is where if someone steals, for example, this is what to be cut off. So al-yadayn, actually, when it's mentioned, it can refer to the palm or to the hand all the way to the elbow. But here for the tayammum is only the palm. He says لقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم, because of what the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام said لعمار. He said to Ammar ibn Yasir rahimahullah رضي الله عنه, he said to Ammar ibn Yasir, إنما كان يكفيك, it was sufficient for you أن تقول بيديك هكذا, that you would say by your hands like this. أن تقول بيديك, that means that you do this with your two hands. ثم ضرب بيديه الأرض ضربة واحدة. This is the hadith of Ammar ibn Yasir, is what's well established in the subject of tayammum. Then he hit with his two hands al-ard, the earth. So ضربة واحدة, one hitting. So that's clearly only the palm. He's not going to hit his hands and arms and so on. Just the hand, which is the palm, to the earth. ضربة واحدة, one hit. ثم مسح الشمال على اليمين. Then he wiped the left on the right. وظاهر كفيه ووجهه. ثم مسح الشمال على اليمين. That means he wiped the left over the right. وظاهر كفيه. وظاهر كفيه, the ظاهر, this is the ظاهر, the other side of the kaf. ووجهه, and his face. And this hadith is muttafaqun alayhi. It's agreed upon. So this is what is the authentic hadith, the clear hadith about the matters of tayammum, and not all the way to the elbow. He says وكذا. So al-fard is to wipe over the face and then the hands, the palm only. So this is how the order is. Not the hands and then the face first and then the hands. He says وكذا الترتيب. And this is how الترتيب, or the order, بين مسح الوجه واليدين, because the tartib is fard also. So to make it in this tartib, face first and then the hands, بين مسح الوجه واليدين, between wiping the hands, the face and the hands. And then he says, and this is, by the way, the tartib here, as he's going to mention, if you look at the الزاد والترتيب والموالاة في حدث أصغر. So al-hadath al-asghar, if it's required for the person to make wudu, because the hadath is not a major one, it's a minor one. So at-tartib is a pillar of the wudu, but not a pillar, is not fard in the ghusl. So when a person is making tayammum for the wudu instead of wudu, then he does not have, if it's for wudu, he has to make the tartib. It has to be done according to what's mentioned, the face and then the hands. But if it's for ghusl, then a tartib, or the order, is not mandatory. He says وكذا الترتيب بين مسح الوجه واليدين والموالاة بينهما. الموالاة, the continuity, بينهما, between the hand and between the face and the hand. بألا يؤخر مسح اليدين, where he is not to delay wiping the hands. بحيث يجف الوجه, where the face would dry out. لو كان مغسولا, if it was washed. فهما فرضان في التيمم عن حدث أصغر. So the mu'ala here, as we said in wudu, that what is the time that would breaks the continuity? The time where normally in normal conditions the organ will be dried out. But when here the tayammum, also what breaks the continuity is the time where it's usually the face would dry out if it was washed, right? So الترتيب والموالاة. But الترتيب والموالاة في حدث أصغر، في التيمم عن حدث أصغر، only from the حدث الأصغر, because this is a pillar for the wudu in the حدث الأصغر. But then he says لا عن حدث أكبر أو نجاسة ببدن. Not from a major حدث, which is that requires غسل, a person is making tayammum from غسل, for غسل, أو نجاسة ببدن, or he's making tayammum for the najasa, or he's making tayammum for the najasa. Then he says لأن التيمم مبني على طهارة الماء, because the tayammum مبني is established based on the tahara of al-ma'. Its analogy, it's in place of the purification of the water. So the other pillars are to be applied as he mentioned. And this is again when it comes to this tartib that is required. Uh, the other opinion is that it's not mandatory, because there's no dalil on it except that this was mandatory for the wudu. Right? And anyway, so this is where it's famous from the madhab. He says, ويشترط النية لما يتيمم له. ويشترط النية لما يتيمم له. So now he's going to talk about the niyyah for the tayammum. But we'll stop here, inshallah. We'll stop here so that we don't accumulate many masail here. We wanted to comprehend it and for you to read it over and to make sure that it's understood, inshallah. So we'll stop here because it has other masail that is linked to it. So we can do that, inshallah ta'ala, next time, inshallah. So hopefully this is clear. And as we said, this is what these masail, according to the madhab. And when it comes to the practicality of things, there's other narrations where the subject of a turab versus everything else. And also within the madhab, if it's anything other than a turab, but it has turab on it, has ghubar on it, and it comes into one's hand, that means the tayammum is valid. And that the tayammum is done with one darba, with one hit, no, not twice, according to the madhab here, because of the hadith of Ammar ibn Yasir, one time only. And after hitting the ground one time, then to wipe the face and then the hands. To wipe the face and then the hands. And if letting the dust to go down, there is no harm. And then the face and then the hands. وظاهر كفيه ووجهه. And therefore the tartib here is mandatory, as we heard, and also al-muwala. And al-muwala, the continuity, and the difference between the tayammum for al-hadath al-asghar and the hadath al-akbar only shown in the subject of al-tartib wal-muwala. But for ghusl, if it's in place of ghusl, then it is not something that is mandatory. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy, inshallah, to understand. The attendance code is ghubar. The attendance code is ghubar. And make sure, inshallah, that when you read the matn and when you read the sharh also, you can classify the different masail and you can put them together, and to make sure that what's understood is what's mentioned in the book as he explains of the opinion of the madhab, versus the other opinions and riwayat. We just mention it so that we make sure that it's also understood, inshallah. If you have any questions, go ahead, inshallah. The ghubar is this dust that accumulates on our nightstand and we dust it or wipe it down to clean off. This is the type of dust, yes. And this is basically what is a sa'id. So when is meant by al-ghubar, that comes from a turab. No. So anything that has ghubar on it can be used for tayammum. So the nightstand, your office, your desk, anything that can have dust on it or ghubar on it, and it stays in your hand if you hit it, you can use it for tayammum. Oh, there's one over here. The ghubar is this dust. Now, the second one is if there's only a little bit of water and a person is thirsty, should they drink it first and then look for more water for wudu? And then if they can't find any, they do tayammum? No. As mentioned before, that if a person has some water, one of the things that validates the tayammum, that if a person has drinking water, it doesn't have to be that a person has to drink it first. No, it's to be kept for later because if he uses it, he doesn't know if he's going to get another amount of water or not. So, and this is sufficient for his drinking, then he is not to use that for tayammum. And in that case, he is faqid al-ma. He does not have water. So he has to look for water. And if he doesn't find water, then he is to do tayammum without using the water that he's supposed to drink from. Now, um, to be clear, like, if there is a pile of sugar that is very dusty, it can be used for tayammum because the tayammum isn't done with the sugar itself, but with the dust mixed in with it. No, there's two different mas'ala here, and this is a very good question. There are 2 points here that are mentioned. The first one is when he talked about at-tahir. Using the analogy from water, you have the water is tahur and you have water that is tahir. At-tahir is not permissible to be used for wudu or ghusl, where it changed to something else other than water. The same thing applies here for the turab if it's mixed with something else. So a good example is the sugar. If it's mixed with the sugar, is it called sugar or it's called turab? That's the question. If it's called sugar, then it's not permissible to make tayammum with sugar. Clear? So this is the mas'ala of a change to tahir. So it's mixed with something like sugar, for example, then it's not permissible. The other mas'ala is if you have a pile of sugar, right? And this sugar has dust on it, has ghubar on it, but it's not mixed where you can use it, period. No, you're using the ghubar. So the sugar in this case will take the same ruling as a piece of wood that has dust on it. Is it permissible to make tayammum with wood? The answer is no. But if there's ghubar on the wood, then you can make tayammum from the ghubar on the wood. So the same thing, if it's feasible, I'm not sure how, but if there can be dust covering the sugar, then you're making tayammum with the ghubar. So if there's a layer of ghubar on the sugar, not that the sugar is mixed with ghubar, turab. And that's why there's difference between the word turab and ghubar. The ghubar is very light, and that's why what you see on glass or on the desk, this is ghubar. If you hit it, you'll feel it in your hand. A turab is the earth itself. No, I hope it's clear, inshallah. Can one, and if it's not, please ask because this is very important to make it clear. Can one always make intention of purification from major impurity even if he has minor impurity? He can make the intention of purity in general. If when it comes to water, a person can make intention from we're making ghusl, it doesn't have to. He just making ghusl of tahara to purify himself. For the tayammum, since it's badal, since it's an exchange, it's instead of, that means a person has to specify. So whether this is in place of janaba, that means he wants to make a major from a major hadath or a minor hadath. So if he makes it with the intention instead of ghusl, then the minor one is included. Now, and the other opinion that we talked about it also before, that as long as the tayammum is being done, then but for the tayammum, if you make it as instead of ghusl, then the wudu comes in place. But if you make it for wudu, then you cannot be in the same position as the major impurity. So it's basically it's different for the tayammum because you have to know exactly what you're making the tayammum for, whether it's in place of ghusl or in place of wudu. And this is where the intention come in place. So if you make it in place of ghusl, that's fine. Takes the same ruling as you made ghusl. Yes, the tayammum for ghusl is the same as the tayammum for wudu. It's the same tayammum. There's no differences in the way that you make the tayammum. Naam, one intention is sufficient. One intention is sufficient. So if a person makes intention for making tayammum because it's in place of wudu, then it's only in place of wudu. If he discovered that he was supposed to make ghusl, then that tayammum is not valid for him because his intention was for al-hadath al-asghar, right? So that's different than when you have water. You make the ghusl as a tahara in itself. So if a person has water and he made ghusl as a way to be able to make salah and so on, then that's valid. But for the tayammum, it becomes an issue if he's making the tayammum in place of wudu and he was supposed to make ghusl. That means he was supposed to make the tayammum in place of ghusl, not wudu. طيب, barakallah fikum. We'll stop here, inshallah. And again, inshallah, what we're going to do is, after we finish, especially the chapter of tayammum, inshallah, we'll go through it again quickly to make sure that the masail are clear and it's not confusing. And also, hopefully, after the end of Kitab al-Tahara, and we'll have the exam, inshallah. So make sure that you kind of dissect the masail, you put them together one after mas'ala after the other, so that it's clear, inshallah. Barakallah fikum wa jazakumullah khairan, and we'll continue, inshallah ta'ala, next time. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.